We take a look at the Democratic nominee's economic plan. On Thursday in Michigan, Hillary Clinton unveiled her proposals, attacking Trump along the way and suggesting that his ideas would trigger a recession.
When it comes to creating jobs, I would argue it's not even close. Even conservative experts say Trump's agenda will pull our economy back into recession. By contrast, the same analysts found that with our plans, the economy would create more than 10 million new jobs.
Joining the panel this week, Wall Street Journal columnist and deputy editor Dan Henninger, Wall Street Journal associate editorial page editor James Freeman, member of the editorial board Joe Rago, and columnist Mary Anastasia O'Grady. So, Mary, what was your #1 takeaway, the most important thing you took away from the Clinton economic agenda in her speech?
I think the most important thing was what I didn't hear, which is that she did not talk about growth or productivity, which is really what's missing in this economy.
She talked about jobs.
Well, that's different, though. She talked about if the government could get more in taxes from rich people and deploy it the way she thinks is important, that somehow you could create what I would call demand-side spending, and that when those consumers go out to spend, that will boost the economy. And of course, that's a ridiculous equation, and it's not like it hasn't been tried before. I mean, Obama had the stimulus plan. Right. We didn't get anything out of it, and now she just wants to double down on that.
Okay, but she's saying, look, I'm going to spend $275 billion in infrastructure spending, roads, bridges, the electrical grid, those kinds of things, and that'll put people to work. A lot of Americans look at that and say, yeah, sure, that you can put government is putting people to work. What's wrong with that?
Well, first of all, what we've learned about infrastructure spending, shovel-ready, if that sounds familiar to you, is it doesn't work, because that is not how capital is deployed in a way that is productive. In other words, that increases the productivity, that is the output per hour,
but
which is what raises wages.
But can it do that? Can it not increase productivity if it's for the right infrastructure? If it's for a bridge, for example, that eases traffic congestion over the Hudson River?
Well, I think it's a little bit of a fantasy to think that that's going to happen. When we look at the reason why the shovel-ready projects didn't work was regulation and the way that capital is deployed. Markets deploy capital to their highest uses, which is one reason why you have productivity gains in the free market and you don't have them with government. I would also add, Paul, that of the 10 million jobs she says she's going to create, about 7 million of them are going to be created in the next 10 years, whether there's a change in the law or not.
Right.
So she's fudging the numbers a little bit there to make it look like she has some great jobs-creating program.
All right, James, Trump versus Clinton, what did you see? What are the big differences here? Where do you think, what are the differences Trump is trying to drive with Clinton?
Well, I think this is the difference that can win him the election if he stays focused. It's the difference between her speech, which was discouraging to job creators and people who run businesses, and his, which was encouraging. Mary talked about the productivity problem.
Okay, we talked about the infrastructure spending, but where are the differences? Is it on taxes and regulation?
Taxes are a huge difference. What he's saying is, I'm going to make it much cheaper, much easier to invest in the United States. He's saying, I'm going to change the tax rules, lower the rate, allow you to immediately expense capital investments. When you build a new factory, buy a new machine, much easier, cheaper to do that now. What she's saying is, I'm going to tax you more, I'm going to punish you if you try to leave the United States for a lower tax jurisdiction. It's basically the opposite message. He's saying, come here and build. She's saying it's going to be expensive and more so to build here. So I think this is the key issue, and it's why we've seen business investment declining 3 straight quarters, just like productivity. That's the big issue. He's focused on it. She's not.
Dan, what do you think? You have anything else to add to that? And what I heard was that on trade, for example, the two of them aren't all that different. I mean, Hillary Clinton has really moved quite a ways toward Trump on trade. I heard her say she's going to appoint a trade prosecutor, a new position in the government to go after foreign imports and apply tariffs if need be.
Yeah, and she also mentioned currency manipulation. The only other place we've heard that is in Donald Trump's speeches. So And she talked about infrastructure. Donald Trump has talked at great length about investing in infrastructure. This is reflecting something we've talked about often, Paul, which is that when you start talking about things like infrastructure spending or getting tough on trade or tax credits, and there were enough tax credits in that Hillary Clinton proposal to make Saul Alinsky dance in the streets of whatever circle of hell he is in right now. But the Democrats will always outbid the Republican in those areas. There is no way you can top them. The only way you can compete is by sort of explaining how the private sector is going to work. And she just has nothing in there for the private sector other than perhaps, as she said, infrastructure banks, which would unleash the private sector.
Joe, one of the things that she talked about was her ability to get along with Congress, members of both parties. She'd be able to push this through. Now, that's addressing the problem that if she does win, probably the Republicans will at least still hold the House. Now, not guaranteed, but at least still hold the House. Is it plausible that she's going to be able to do most of what she proposes?
No, I mean, unless she does it through regulation, the same way Obama has. I mean, look, Hillary Clinton is basically running on an Obama plus economic agenda. It's the last 8 years, only more so. So I don't think you're going to see a Republican House, assuming it lasts past November, going along with this. So I think we're going to see more of the same gridlock. If you're voting for Hillary Clinton, it's 4 more years. Trump is definitely a risk, but there's a possibility it could be better.
And she's banking really on a Democratic Congress.
Yeah, she's certainly running well to the left of Obama, looking for a sweep, has made no concessions to the center at all.